Welcome, everybody. We'll wait a couple of minutes for everybody to join our CDS Exports webinar with Chamber Customs. Some really good numbers here. We're over 100 already. It's good to see. $129, $130. It keeps rising, so that's good. I think we can start now. Just a couple of housekeeping things. This webinar is being recorded. No one's faces are on the screen. It's just the Mitch, myself, and Emmanuel, and the screen. So don't worry. It's recorded so that we can then send you the recording afterwards. We do have a Q&A function, and we'll answer some questions probably during the webinar as they happen. I'll be moderating that. And if there is longer questions to answer, we'll do that at the end as well. I think we can now introduce our speakers. I'll do a quick intro about myself. My name is Marika Majewska, and I'm an operations assistant at the Chamber Customs team. I work with Mitch Emmanuel and a few others at the central team. I'm here to moderate the webinar today, and today's speakers are Mitch Perks, Head of Operations. Would you like to say a couple of words, Mitch?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Marika. Yeah, Mitch Burks, Head of Ops, been with the company now since January 2021. Yeah, my kind of responsibility here is leading the day-to-day operation and our compliance at Chamber Customs.
And we're also joined by Emmanuel Gianquito. Would you like to say yourself?
Yeah, I'll say hello. Good morning, everybody. I recognize many of the names in our attendees today. Nice to virtually see you all. I've been here since before day one, setting up the company, and I work with this lovely team. So we're here today to share some of the insights on the changes to CDS export.
Fab. Super. So it's not just welcome, it's also welcome back to many of the names in the participants. A couple of words about Chamber Customs. You can have a read of what's on a slide, but what we do is declarations, consultancy, and training. Our chamber network at chambers of commerce across the country provide the service of customs declarations. They're lovely local teams that you can see face to face if you wish to. We also provide training if you need to expand your knowledge on any customs related things. Like today, we're going to talk about more about CDS export. We provide bespoke training as well if you need anything a bit more tailored to your company. And we also do consultancy projects if you have a specific procedure that you'd like to set up or any other things that you'd like to get ironed out with us. And I think that kind of sums us up. I'll hand over to Emmanuel just now and he'll go over the agenda.
Wonderful. Thanks, Marika. So what we're going to be covering today is we're going to talk very briefly about chief closure. It is that time. We'll then talk to you about the CDS export journey and the steps to follow. We're going to talk about how we can help supporting your move, and then we'll go into the Q&A. So as Marika said, please use the Q&A panel and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible as we go. So this is where I must have pressed something wrong. Let's start again. Sorry, guys. I think, Mitch, you're up. Let me just get the right slides. But it was very nice. I don't know what I've done. Let me just try again. So you know that this is done live and it's not recorded when things go wrong, by the way. There we are. Mitch, all yours.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome to everybody to today's webinar. I'm going to cover the first part, which is related to the chief closure and some dates for the diary and where we are in terms of our position for CDS. After I've done that part, I'll hand back over to Emmanuel, who's going to talk through kind of our key 3 stages with moving across to CDS. For those of you that have been on one of our webinars before, this is more of an updated version because we've kind of moved with the timeline that HMRC have set, and today is more to provide you an update of where we are. For me, really exciting for when we mentioned chief closure. You know, been in international trade now for 10 years, and for probably 6 of them years, we've been talking about CDS and starting from the beginning of the whole purpose of why CDS was going to be put into place, and then that whole timeline of testing and implementing it across the business is really exciting. And actually, we're at that final step now, so it's really, really, really exciting to see finally after all these years of planning and preparing. So in terms of the changes, as most of you on the webinar will know, the chief system is discontinuing after over 30 years of use, and we're transitioning over to the Customs Declaration Service, which is effectively CDS. Now, the key dates for exports in regards to imports, we fully migrated over a year ago. So, you know, we're fully CDS for imports, but we're actually currently able to dual run for exports at the minute with Chief and CDS. Now, some initial dates were proposed for the 30th of November last year. That was when the initial Chief platform was going to completely retire. But there's been some problems along the way, which was expected with technical issues and software issues and basically making the system run effectively. And as time's gone on, we've been able to iron these problems out. And we're in a position now where on the 30th of June 2024, Chief will retire fully for export. So effectively all traffic will go through CDS. Now, in terms of the impact and action required, so where we are in terms of Chamber Customs, so all of our RoRo GVMS movements are now on CDS, and we're confident in that. So in November 2023, we got ahead of the game and ahead of the curve to get effectively every declaration that we possibly could through CDS. And what that does there is it allows us to come across any problems that we may face with rejections or validation issues on CDS and work with HMRC and CDS Ops to get them fixed. So we've kind of bought ourselves some time by being proactive and moving our declarations over where we could. Now, we know there was some delays with inventory linking and air freight movements, which we'll go into a little bit later through the webinar, but actually all the declarations where we could do them on CDS, we've got them across. And that's basically the message today to everybody, is that basically all the movements can be submitted through CDS. In terms of action required, declarants and associated traders should be prepared. And this is the time to get prepared, because initially the date, although it moved from November, it actually moved again to end of March, but they've kindly, HMRC have extended that to June. So really, if that June extension hadn't been given, we would have 3 weeks from now. So, you know, my suggestion there would be to use the next 3 weeks to plan ahead, test as much as you can if you've got access to the TDR rehearsal system, and get ahead of the game ready so that when we get to June, you're not facing a hard impact and you're not going straight into CDS with no plan ahead. So CDS, what are the benefits of using CDS? Well, a few points here. It's aligned with the UK trade plan. So this was to cope with different tariffs, because at the time of Brexit, we didn't know what trade deal was going to happen. So We needed a system that could cope with UK and EU trade tariffs. We needed a system that could cope with volume, because as we know, import and exports to the EU before Brexit wouldn't have required a UK import declaration or an export declaration. So we needed a system to cope with that volume. And this is where the idea of CDS came from. So some of the benefits here, it's got legal compliance in the EU and UK. It can cope with UK and EU trade tariff. It's resilient and reliable, and it's actually really responsive. So I don't know how many of you in the virtual room have submitted declarations from Chief, but we used to actually have a laugh and a joke when we submitted declarations by clicking the enter button. It used to be like our refresh, and we used to continue to click as we seen the circle go round of how long it would take to get a declaration through. And actually CDS works completely different in the fact that it's responsive, it's quick, and you can submit an entry and get a response almost immediately. So it has huge benefits in terms of waiting times. And it also has the flexibility to grow in line with the trade plans, which is effectively to have the world's most effective customs system by 2025. So, you know, we talk about 5 or 6 years in the making, but actually we're only 1 year off what the plan for CDS actually was, which is to have this effective system that could cope with growth, volume, and be proactive and responsive. So that's kind of the key points of what CDS was introduced for. In terms of our readiness, I'm really happy to see that we're now in green. Every time we've delivered this before, there's been a lot of green, but there's been quite a lot of orange, because we're always like, well, we're waiting for this area to be introduced, or we've got some technical issues here, whether it was relating to excise or merchandise in baggage. But we're in a really good position right now. So as of the 4th of March, a communication was delivered by HMRC to say that all movements could be submitted through CDS for exports. We know that imports is already being done, so this is relating to exports. So that's all RoRo and GVMS movements through GVMS ports. And now inventory link declarations. So we've got the functionality for deep sea, air and road, and also excise movements and merchandise in baggage. So I can't say right now that everything's going to work 100% and it's going to be swimmingly smooth. Fingers crossed that it is. But realistically, this will be now the time to test. So if you've got any inventory linking declarations, this is the time to test it on CDS, because we can dual run and we can actually use Chief. So in the event that there was an issue, we can report it back to HMRC, but you can go back to Chief in the interim to effectively prevent delays at the border and to provide the clearance to your customer. And then for imports, obviously, we know that that's all green as well. Now, common errors. There's going to be a few errors coming up on the screen here, and some of you may have been involved or seen some of the errors relating to exports. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about these because we're hoping that fixes are going to take place as time goes on. But we've seen issues with C1602, which is post arrival and departures. So any declaration that has not had a departure or an arrival, there is post forms that can be completed. And the C1602, we have experienced issues with that form since we've migrated over to CDS. Recently, there's also been a VAT-Z error that's come from HMRC. So we're aware of that, and we're working with HMRC on that as well. Departure issues, and in general, there has been some teething issues with CDS exports. Emmanuel, is there any point on there that you'd like to elaborate on a bit further?
Well, as you say, without going too much into the technical details that you know we know as a customs agent and others will know, the issues are basically bringing all the systems up to speed. CDS is one of the systems, so when we submit one of those messages that you were talking about, Mitch, because something hasn't worked, So
Yeah.
goods have left, but the system doesn't know. That integration doesn't always work. So when we submit the correct form, and the advice is to continue to submit that form to fix an issue, for example, if the goods have not been marked as departed, the only thing that we know is that sometimes it doesn't get reflected correctly on CDS. So the only thing to do from a compliance point of view is to submit the correct form and then continue to raise the issue. Same thing with VAT-Z. VAT-Z is a code that we've been told to put on to claim the 0 rating of goods at export. There is debate on that. Some of us believe that is not needed. It doesn't work on exports on inventory linking, but we're hoping that they will fix that. So again, it's a teething issue, as you very rightly described. Now, what you said at the very beginning, I think, is the key message for everybody in the room. Use CDS today, and then if you have issues, report them through the right channels. Chamber Customs agencies by us, so we can inform HMRC and we can fix them. Now, if there is an emergency, we still have a few weeks where in extreme cases, we can still use Chief. But apart from that, I think it works. We've been using, as you said, CDS export for a while. Now, there were a couple, maybe only one question I'd like to answer now, if I may, Mitch.
Yeah, please.
And it's from Mark Anderson. Will SAD and departure messages S8 still be received via CDS? I'll answer as yes and no, Mark. So the SAD is going, goodbye. That's a form from 1989, 1988, 1989. It's gone, finished. There are similar outputs from CDS, which software providers render on your software. So you will see something that looks like an SAD, but it's no longer a form that exists. You will get a message that comes out from CDS. It's no longer called S8. All of those beautiful E2, E0, and all those things that we were used to have gone. There are new messages in CDS that we will have a look at in a bit. And you will get a departure message, which is going to be called DMS, which is a direct message, and then it will have exit of goods. So you will find that, and it will be there. So hopefully that answered your question. So back to you, Mitch.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of planning your move to CDS, now, most of you, if you're doing import declarations, will have done this already. So this might not be new to you, but it's really important that we do list kind of the steps that you need to take. So if it's relating to just exports, or if you're a new customs agent that is only just starting to do declaration on CDS, these are some of the steps that you'll need to take. So you would require CDS ready software. So it's really important, if you're currently using Chief, to speak to your software provider and make sure that they're CDS ready. That's if you're self-representing. Or if you're using a customs agent, is making sure that they're CDS ready. That's if you're delegating, so making sure that the customs agent is using CDS, just as we are here at Chamber Customs. And also updated instructions, and this is a really key point that Emmanuel is going to go through shortly with the stages of the journey, because we're going to really dive into some of the instructions that are new to CDS that you wouldn't have required for Chief. So actually, there's more advanced instructions that you require, and we'll cover that topic as we go through the webinar. Some considerations, and I mean, these really link back to what I said from the start of the webinar, which is timing. So it's being proactive and getting ahead of the game, really. So my suggestion would be to try and use CDS as quickly as you can, whether that's using the test trade rehearsal system and having a go and doing some kind of test examples, if your software provider has that functionality, or actually moving your customers from Chief onto CDS, because the quicker that we do that, the more time it allows us to iron out any teething problems. That links on then to system changes. Chief and CDS, although there's the similarity of what the end result is, which is to provide a customs clearance declaration, the functionality of the systems are very different in terms of the messaging and how you actually input your customs declaration together with the data element. So it's really important, if you've not used CDS, that we don't assume that it's the same as Chief and it's, oh, we can wait till June and we'll just switch over. There is a lot of additional steps that are required and that are additional to Chief. So please make sure you plan time for training development and system changes on CDS. And make sure that you've got your authorizations into place as well. So if you're a trader, making sure that you've got your financial dashboard set up on your government gateway and you've got everything prepared for when you are using CDS.
Very good. Can I add on the authorization, Mitch, also to
Sure.
make sure, apart from our own authorizations as agents and etc., that if there are traders with special procedure authorizations, the codes to quote will look different in CDS. So we will need as agents to update those codes, make sure that we have these new longer format codes to quote on declarations, and traders will have to go and find them basically.
Perfect. Okay. There is a question in the chat that I think it'd be really good to answer now, and it's from Lucas, and it's, can you please confirm that CDS is functional for all sea exports? And we can confirm that that is the case from, which I just said previously here, from the 4th of March, we had confirmation from HMRC that all export movements could be completed on CDS. So please go ahead and try your inventory linking declarations.
Great.
Okay. Now I'm going to hand over to Emmanuel for the export journey.
Great. Thank you very much, Mitch. There's always lots to cover, and I can see questions coming in thick and fast. Marika's doing a great job of listing them, so we will cover them in a bit. There are 3 steps on this CDS export journey, and we've run this presentation many times. Now, I'm hoping that by this point, you all have access to CDS, because if you don't have access to CDS, please do it today. You really need to get on that system. The second point that I will cover is understanding the data requirements. There are some questions on this already. Similar concepts, but different, right? The whole SAD harmonization has been replaced by this new approach to data harmonization, and we need to understand how that's changed. That will flow into some updated instructions that you will need as a customs agent, or if you're the customer, and if you need clearance, you need to expect, you need to get ready to provide more information to your agent. And then the other thing that's changed is the tariff. The tariff has changed for various reasons. I mean, we call it the CDS tariff because volume 3, the mechanics guide, as my teacher used to call it, actually that's changed because the system has changed. So the instructions on how to fill a declaration have changed. But also there have been updates to volume 2 in terms of the HS codes and all the restrictions that apply, etc., and the link with Northern Ireland, and there is a question about that. So we'll try and cover as much of that as possible. So in terms of getting access to CDS, look, I hope I don't have to tell you that you need an EORI number that starts with GB or XI if you're in Northern Ireland. You need your basic data to register and get that. If you need access to the government gateway and you don't have it, let us know. We'll see what we can do to help you. Once you are registered, then what Mitch said before is really important. You need to go and register for your financial dashboard. That is when you click and say registered for CDS. This is a really key point because through that financial dashboard, you will get 2 things, and you will receive messages from HMRC, and you will be able to upload documents. And basically, that's how all those route 1s are going to go. So whenever Border Force or any of the agencies require documentation from you for a declaration, they will inform you via that channel. So you need access to it. And if you're working in a team, you need to understand how within the team you share that information. If you're part of Chamber Customs, we've automated that. We have access to the central mailbox, but you also see on the declaration itself through our software that there is a message waiting. So the second part, and I'm hoping to answer some of the questions we received, is understanding data requirements. Now, in all honesty, there is more information that is required on a CDS declaration than before. I would say about 20% more if we count the data points that are required. The boxes have gone, so we will no longer talk about box 1, box 8, box 44, and to some of us, those numbers meant something. They've gone. So what we have instead is data elements, and the data we provide in a declaration is split in 8 groups. When we train off that, basically we try to understand it, and the 8 groups answer 8 questions: why the goods are moving, what authorizations are needed, who is involved in the trade, financial implications, routing, goods description, packaging, transport, value. Nothing should surprise you. None of these questions should surprise you. What you might want to notice is how they are grouped. So this is, we will share the slides with you, of course, but I find this a very useful slide to have. And the reason for that is this is your index to volume 3. So if you're looking on guidance on how to, fill in a box on, I don't know, packages, then you know that packages will be one of the elements in group 6. So when you look at the guidance, you can actually navigate to group 6 in your export, and then you will get the answer. If you get stuck, you can always contact us, because we're always happy to help internally and externally, and we have really easy ways of accessing our services. Now, the other thing that we need to understand, again, this is another very good slide, and this is the answer to some of the questions which we're asking. What are the key elements of information that exporters or importers should ensure they provide? So Chris, you asked this question. This is your answer. So if you had an instruction sheet on Chief, we would suggest that you integrate it with the information listed here as mandatory. So I'll just go through it quickly. So transport charges method of payment. This was a safety and security question, which was optional in Chief. It is now mandatory. So you will need to find an approach that is compliant to obtaining that information. Whether that is distilling that information from the invoice trail or asking directly is your choice. It needs to be compliant. We have a certain approach within the network on how we do that. The other thing that might surprise you is that you need to provide carrier information. So you will need to provide the name of the company that transports the goods with either an address or an EORI number if it's a GB EORI. You will need to provide route countries, a bit like we do on a transit declaration. There is a minimum, which is country of origin of, country of whence consigned and country of destination, or you can provide the full routing. Of course, this applies to road. We don't need to provide a route if the goods are going via sea or via air. Gross mass is now mandatory. So again, you will need to start thinking about obtaining or providing that information. As I was mentioning before to what Mitch was saying, because we've seen this as a problem, references for authorizations held have got a different format. Now, Chief was basically, Chief had a table in the background where it knew against each EORI what declarations were held. So if your trader had outward processing, as long as you quoted their EORI number, you could do an export declaration starting with 21 and she would accept it. 21 being temporary export for outward processing. In CDS, you have to provide the authorization number that allows your trader to do that export. There are various reasons for that. We might like it or we might not, but there are various reasons. And the reason is that you have a more extended supply chain on a customs declaration. So you can quote not just the two closest parties involved, which is the chief approach, but you can quote more parties. So you will quote perhaps the manufacturer, the warehouse keeper, the transporter, and so on and so forth. So we have to be more specific and quote what declaration authorization we're using. A bit more work for us, the agents. Those numbers are coded in a certain way, and you will need to obtain them. They should be on the authorization letters. More things is the nature of transaction. This is a new field. We've not had to do this before. We have to explain on top of the customs procedures, and there have been changes to those, somebody mentioned. You will have to provide a clear answer to why are the goods moving. Is it a sale? Is it a diplomatic bag? Is it other? So you will need to provide that information. Clearly, as an agent, you can't invent it. You have to obtain that from somewhere. And if you are a customer, you need to be prepared for that question to be asked. I was ahead of myself. Customs procedures codes have changed. This is perhaps one of the biggest changes that we've seen. And it's totally aligned with how Europe does it. So whereas in the past we had, if you like, fixed 7-digit procedures, and you could find guidance for the specific 7-digit code, you now have a mix and match approach where you have the 4 digits, so is requested in previous procedure, part 1, and that combination of 4 digits can support one or more additional procedure codes. So some of the old things you were using may not work anymore. I saw somebody mentioning 10.00056. The other one that's always mentioned is the one ending in 018. These have changed. So there are tables to guide you. We can help you. But what Mitch said before is the key. You cannot rely on your chief knowledge to file a CDS declaration. It will not work, or even worse, you will get errors and you won't understand why. So the system is similar, but it is different. You do have the ability to provide guarantee details and additional fiscal references. However, although these are mandatory pieces of information that you would have to provide if you needed them, if you know what I mean, it's very rare that we need them at export. As an option, you can provide the additional supply chain actors, as I was mentioning before, your warehouse keeper, manufacturer, transporter, freight forwarder, consolidator, and so on and so forth. It is not mandatory. You can also extend the supply chain. There is room to do this, although it's not fully active because it's not needed. And you could extend to include the seller who might not be the same party as the exporter. And on the other side, you may include the buyer who may not be the same as the importer. So there are extended chains that you can report. Perhaps the more interesting ones are the last 2 bullet points. One is the additional traders reference. There is a field, this data element 2.4, which allows the agent to include a long reference to suit the trader. So we have different numbers. We have a local reference number, which is a serial number or something that is more internal for the agent. And there is a trader's reference where we can quote something that is meaningful to the trader. That is excellent. I know it's just a reference field, but definitely within Chamber Customs, it's helped us a lot. And finally, last but not least, you have the ability to provide commercially agreed exchange rates. It's a little bit more flexible than it ever was in Chief, because there is a recognition that in international trade, there are, very often commercially agreed exchange rates, which might be different from the HMRC exchange rate. So we can align the numbers that we report. Now, we have a few slides just to kind of cover these data elements that are new. On the transport charges method of payments, our reading of the guidance is that you can only declare this data element to the extent known. The way we do it, sharing this freely, is that when we're dealing with D Incoterms, so delivered a place, for example, we assume that the transport charges have been paid with the invoice. So however the invoice has been paid, that's how we've paid the transport. And for E and F Incoterms, all we know is that this is not prepaid. This part down here is our interpretation and reading of the guidance. It is not official HMRC guidance. The 100% belt and braces approach can only be, you have to ask your customer. But I think that this is an acceptable way of interpreting the information. Data element 331. So again, this is if you want to go and read the guidance, you find group 3, element 31. The carrier is something to put in. Something that some of you might be surprised at is that when we export goods, we now have to provide means of transport both at the point of departure and at the border. So when does the export start? Normally the export for us starts at the border. So very often departure and border will be the same thing. The goods are going by air. And the export journey starts at the airport when we deliver the goods to the airline. It'll be the same. For sea, same thing. You know, when we get to Felixstowe and put our goods into the hands of the port handler, that's where the export starts. So departure and border means of transport will be the same. It's a little bit more confusing for road because we have sometimes a lorry that gets on a ferry, and then we have two different ones. So we need to keep that in mind. The guidance is a little bit confusing on this point. And this is probably the biggest question that we get on all our webinars, and HMRC gets this all the time. How do we know who is going to transport? Or for example, the registration plate of the lorry that will cross the ferry when I've done my declaration a day before. Well, sometimes you don't know, but you are asked for this information. So for me, the point in the guidance that is absolutely clear is that it says where known. If you don't know the identity at departure, you can put unknown at this stage because it will be updated later. So the journey hasn't really changed. There is still a loader at the port who will have to update this information. Furthermore, if it's road, you know that there is an additional product called GVMS that the haulier uses to link your declaration to the actual crossing. So it should be okay. So it's still there. We're hoping that for road movement, since there is GVMS, this requirement is removed, but it's not at the moment. The 3 countries that you need to provide: dispatch, routing, and destination, not changed. The routing is the new one that I mentioned before. And then we have box 44. Box 44 has left. Box 44 is gone, and we're very happy about it because it was very difficult. Box 44 was for everything else or anything else. It has been split in 2 different data elements. So we have a data element 22, which is a data element in which we include additional information. These are the AI codes. that we provide if the customs procedure require. 2.3 is where we provide documents. So for example, if we need an authorization. A word on that, CDS wants a lot more. The new tariff wants a lot more. So you will find that whereas before it was rare that you would need some codes at export, it is quite common here. They depend, these codes, on the commodity code that you're moving. And if you're transporting something that on the tariff is listed as where you have to confirm something, you will always have to confirm it, whether it's a positive declaration or a negative declaration. Yes, I need this document. There is a code to quote for that. Or no, I don't need that document. And there is another code for that. And it's a legal requirement to respond to that. Which also means that it's a legal requirement for you, if you're the agent, to be sure about what you're declaring and not making it up. Not that any of people, anybody here would do that. You have to ask and be sure. Authorizations and approvals used to go in box 44. They go in a specific box, a specific data element, which belongs to group 3, element 39, which is where we put authorizations and approvals. If I have outward processing authorization, I would quote it there. So in the short of this slide is you will need to provide this information. Now, if you're the agent, ask your customer to confirm this information. And if you are the trader, be prepared to review your HS codes and understand today on the tariff what questions might be asked. Now, Mitch will know this better than I do, but we get asked all the time. I've never had to provide this information before. How many times a week do you think we get that?
A lot, multiple times.
It's like, I never had to provide this information. Why do I have to provide this information now? Well, I'm sorry, it's in the tariff. Why do I have to explain that my product is not a waste product? Well, because the tariff asks us to confirm whether this is a product that you're exporting as waste to be treated in another country. So I think we're getting better, but be prepared because there is a lot more. So have a look at volume 2.
I say as well, it's changed as well recently where some tariffs have added additional information. So the question we get now is, well, we didn't have to provide it before, so why now? But as we know, with things like fluorinated gases and the removal of the 999L waiver, it's becoming where the tariff is asking for more specific information, and we've got to adhere to the rules of the tariff.
Absolutely, and this is key because this affects the agents and the customers. Now, if you're an agent, I think it is very important that you do this kind of work to educate your customer and making sure that they understand that things have changed. So it's not just you being complicated. You're trying to be compliant. Now, in short, you need to familiarize yourself with completing export customs declarations, which, for the more technical people in the room is volume 3. That's the instructions. And then you need to familiarize yourself with the rules of around products, which is volume 2 of the tariff. Yeah. Now, is it easy? How long does it take? Well, if you're a big organization and you export thousands of different products, perhaps you need to put some time apart. If you're a small organization or an organization, again, if you're a trader, your complexity is low, you export the same thing over and over, it might be something quite quick that you do. As an agent, I think our approach paid off in terms of starting early. We moved our customers early. We had plenty of time to get over the issues. And we had some issues because the HMRC systems weren't fully ready. And although we kind of, give them a lot of put them under a lot of pressure, there is a thing about going live and there's always teething issues. I think overall we're seeing that the system works and it's quick, so it's worth actually going forward. If you're doing your own declarations, have a look at the complexity, have a look how difficult it is, and consider whether you want to upskill your staff. And in that case, we can help you. We have various things to help you in terms of teaching you how to do declarations or supporting you on a ticket basis, or whether you think it is better, cheaper, and safer in terms of compliance to use an accredited customs agent. Maybe this is the right time to review it. In the slides we're going to share with you, we're going to provide you with a series of links to the things we mentioned. So there is a volume 3 with the instructions. There's appendix 22 with all the data sets and the information that you actually put in. There are different appendices with procedure codes. Somebody asked for that. There is a correlation matrix between what left, so what 4-digit code accept as 3-digit code. So if you're using an import declaration of 4000, what additional codes are supported by that? If you're doing an export code, news alert, the new export code is 1040, is no longer 1000. What codes can you attach to that? So there is a nice table there. And then there are other bits of information that might be useful. So perhaps, have a look, link them, put them somewhere in your favorites. Okay, so Mitch, do you want to cover this? Am I covering this before we go into questions?
Yeah, if you cover this, then we'll answer some of the questions and go to the last part of the webinar.
Wonderful, thank you. There is a lot of guidance, and basically, the in short is you could get lost in guidance, and perhaps there should be some guidance on how to read the guidance. So our suggestion is, whatever guidance you look for, make sure that it's gov.uk or it's coming from trustworthy sources. Be careful, because when you're looking for guidance on CDS, you need to make sure that you're looking at CDS, because there's still so much to do with chief out there. There's sometimes you're looking for something, you start reading an article, and then you realize that you're reading something that is out of date. The gov.uk guidance has improved immensely. It's not perfect, but it's supposed to be helpful and is structured in a way that you can navigate it easily. On the homepage of the CDS collection, you actually find things like key differences and, perhaps most importantly, example declarations that you can download and have a look at. If you're very technical, and some of our colleagues are very technical and they love codes, there is a lovely error code guidance which will help you to understand how to read error codes. Ideally, you would have a good software from a reputable provider which would translate those error codes for you, so that you don't have to read the error code guidance, but the software will help you. If you're not so lucky, you can have a look at that list. Now, last time we did this webinar, we were very happy to tell you that HMRC introduced a temporary solution, which was 999L, and it was great. It was a bit like LIC 99. Not as powerful, but similar in concept. Well, sorry, you missed that. That's gone. We cannot use 999L, so we do not have a blanket waiver in CDS. Is that going to stay like that? We don't know, but it looks like it. So this means that if you're exporting a product that has 4 measures against it, you will have to answer to each of the 4 measures. So you might have to say, no, my product is not waste. It doesn't contain cat and dog fur. It's not for torture. It's a piece of paper. It might be something like that. We don't like it. we've made noise about it, but for now, that's how we have to declare goods. I mentioned this before. There is the ability to declare buyers and sellers in addition to exporter and importer. It's not mandatory, but it might become more used in the future. And different, from last time that we presented this, you can now use CDS to do merchandising baggage and excise declarations. Now, as a network, well, and in general in the country, these are not the bulk of export declaration. The bulk of export declarations are RoRo and, followed by sea and air, but we have some merchandising bags as well. Excise is also supposed to be working. We've not had reports of issues at this stage. Okay, in summary, from our point of view, we're ready, and we've been ready for quite a while, haven't we, Mitch?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So since 2020, which now seems like a very long time ago, basically we Chamber Customs was born with CDS in mind. In fact, those of us who were around from day one will remember that we had to retrofit to Chief, but our approach was CDS ready. We helped HMRC develop and test. We did some of the very first live declarations. We keep Chief as dual running because if there is a problem, we don't want our customers to get stuck. If you are self-representing, if you're doing your own declarations, make sure that you're ready in terms of internal procedure. You might need to upskill your staff, and you would have to have a conversation with your software provider to make sure that they're ready and they can offer you all the functionality that are available on CDS that you might want to take advantage of. Good. I think that's it. So Mitch, I'm going to hand over back to you and then we can go on to questions.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks for that. So just a bit more information from Chamber Customs perspective in terms of what we offer for customs declaration. So if you are a trader and you're looking for a customs agent, this is kind of the services that we offer. So we actually offer fast track customs clearance, which effectively is where we guide you through. We basically help you with the clearance and your customs declaration and your transit. But actually we give you direct access to our system through what we call our Exabler portal. We now have an additional simplified wizard mode and a function to upload spreadsheets with your data. So if you are a trader that export multiple lines of product, then there's a really simple solution to complete a customs declaration and basically put the ball in your court. So that's one side of the declaration business. The other side is fully assisted customs clearance, where we do it all for you. So effectively, we would ask you to provide your commercial invoice, your packing list, or any other supporting documentation, and then we file the customs declaration directly to HMRC and provide that information to you. So we do offer two sides. I would say that the wizard mode that we have for Exabler is very good. I'm really excited about that product and it's available for export. So yeah, if anybody would like any more information on that, then please reach out to us and we'll be happy to discuss that further.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So yeah, we'll cover this and then we'll go on to the questions. So upcoming events. So we do have a webinar that's running on the 26th of March at 3 p.m. and that's relating to CBAM. Now, CBAM is a big talk at the moment in regards to policy and the direction of travel for CBAM. So if anybody is interested, then you feel free to attend that. There will be some links published on our social media and also our website if you would like to register to attend. In terms of our training, we're currently running our accredited customs clearance agent course, which is running on the 22nd and 23rd of April for the export
Sorry, the slide hasn't updated. They should have shown be shown May.
Okay.
I'll pop the dates in the chat.
Yes, please. That would be great. So we do have the courses running. Rika will pop the dates in the chat, but that will be for the export module will be run over the course of the first 2 days. And then the following week on from that, we'll be running the 2-day import course. We also have a CDS overview course, if anybody would like to attend that. And that's on the 2nd of May, and all is available to purchase on our website. One final thing to mention here that we're currently, another really exciting project that we're currently involved in here at Chamber Customs is to provide a customs audit masterclass series of webinars, staying ahead of HMRC, and it's going to be a series of sessions that we'll be running to aid customs compliance, to help avoid penalties, and linking it in with the move to CDS. So more information to follow on that. Please keep your eyes open for more information, and when that's available, we will share with you all. But very exciting and looking forward to that rolling out in May time. Okay, so Emmanuel, back to you. Is there some questions we'd like to answer?
There are.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to be very quick because I'm conscious of time and we have 3 minutes, but we'll do our best. So Yen asked, does movement to Northern Ireland require CDS, and will it still require TSS supplementary declaration? Now, in short, a movement from GB to Northern Ireland is not an export because it's a domestic movement within the United Kingdom. However, because the goods land in a territory which is part of the common market, they require an import into the European space. For that, you need to do an import declaration, and that can be done on CDS and only on CDS, but it's an import. You can do it directly into CDS and you do a full movement, or you can use TSS to do a simplified movement where you do a half of the movement, the goods go in, and then you submit a supplementary declaration via TSS. That is supposed to be simplified, but actually is doing the work twice. Anyway, not the place to comment about that. This is changing. However, currently this is the legal approach. There are things on the news about Northern Ireland Protocol, Windsor Framework, and the new agreement that that basically is being worked on, but it's not law. It's policy being made at the moment. So for now, yes, you still have to do an import movement into Northern Ireland. Now, Mark, you ask a very good question. So Mitch, Mark is asking, will a document be provided for HMRC audits, or do we get this information electronically? In the past, we had to have a copy of the S8 and SAD for audits.
Well, this is the interesting thing, is that CDS is actually paperless. I think Chief was intended to be paperless, but actually it wasn't. And you could get an S8 or a copy entry or SAD. There was many abbreviations for that document, but actually there isn't an official HMRC document that is provided through CDS. At Chamber Customs, we do have a text box document that our software creator has provided, which will show the information submitted into the data elements. However, that's not official. So we do have it available here for our agents to send to our customers or to have it on record, but it's not official HMRC document. So the answer to that really is no, there isn't a copy entry or any official document that is downloadable when you do a CDS entry. The most important thing to hold on to is the MRN.
You're absolutely right, Mitch. And but as a friendly suggestion to Mark, I would keep a copy of those in my records, because yes, HMRC is supposed to provide the information to you. What they will do, and we've seen audits come in, is they come to you with a list of MRNs and say, this is what we want to inspect, because that's the official reference. So ideally, you would keep copies of whatever your software provider gives you or whatever your agent gives you, and you would index it by the MRN. That's the number that HMRC will use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So now, in terms of the CPC code to use, Gabriela, I'm not able to answer that very quickly. My suggestion is send us an email and we'll see what guidance we can offer. There is a lot in volume 3 about CPC codes. There isn't always a one-to-one correspondence. So let's actually see. But in general, yes, it is correct that the declaration by conduct would cover your safety and security declaration. So you would do a GMR and a declaration by conduct. But if you want to go in further detail, send us an email. Now, so do we need to buy a badge for each UK port? Yes, or you could use an agent who has badges for all major ports. I just happen to know one called Chamber Customs, but that's entirely up to you. So I've run out of time. So Mitch, I suggest that we actually ask, for a follow-up. Marika, I can see that you're furiously typing away. So perhaps what we can do is to follow up with an email, and we'll see if we can answer some of these questions for everybody. But for me, is everything. Mitch, Marika, do you want to say something else to close?
Marika, do you want to go first?
I think that's just a quick summary. Thank you very much, Emmanuel and Mitch, for your time and the in-depth knowledge on how CDS works. And I think the most important thing to realise from this webinar is that CDS is different, it's complicated, and it's best to know as much as you can before HMRC asks you to explain anything.
Very good point. Absolutely. And for me, look, thank you very much for everybody to attend. Hopefully it was informative for you, and we've been able to provide the latest updates in accordance with the HMRC guidance from when we last ran the session a few months ago. So thank you very much, Marika. Thanks for managing the Q&A and for introducing the webinar. And Emmanuel, thank you very much for discussing the stage and the technical side of it today. It's been really informative. So thank you to you both. And thank you very much for all the participants today on the webinar.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mitch, Marika, and to everybody. Good luck with the CDS transition. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.